Yahoo Sports Fantasy Football Live is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Week 4 edition of Fantasy Football Live. I'm Liz Loza, and I'm here with my favorite Sunday morning crew. Andy Behrens in Chicago, Matt Harmon in Los Angeles, Tank Williams in San Francisco, and betting analyst Minty Betts in Las Vegas. 90 minutes until kickoff. Let's go around the horn. Which player are you keying in on this week? Andy?
The Bears are the flaming accident that I cannot look away from. So I guess I'm keying in on Justin Fields. Again, let me watch Justin Fields so you don't have to.
All right, Matt, what flaming accidents are you not able to look away from?
Yeah, I'm going to try to turn my eyes as far away from that one as possible. But actually, I guess the Falcons offense has been a pretty bad flaming accident so far. And I want to see, like, what gives basically between the Washington defense that hasn't started off the year up to expectations and the Falcons offense that has not started off the year expectations. Kind of had the same question last week with the Buffalo and Washington matchup. Obviously, one of those sides gave all the way when it came to Washington's defense. So how much ground will the Falcons be able to make up here? Well, Mike Davis apparently approaches 50 carries that I talked about last week. One of these weeks, maybe it'll happen.
All right, Tank, you and I are talking about a tight end in Atlanta, but is there someone else that you're looking at this week?
Man, I'm actually looking at King Henry. I mean, we're talking about these dumpster fires and all that. Well, that's what the New York Jets are. So I want to see if they're going to be able to stop that man with his crown, knowing that A.J. Brown and Julio are sitting out. Now, if you can't stop King Henry knowing that those guys are going to be out, you're really in trouble. And Salah's supposed to be like this, you know, this beacon of energy, this, you know, schematic guru between the white lines. So you have to show us a little something today when he's going up against the King.
Well, we better show us some at $41 in our DFS game. Minty, any particular line you're keeping an eye on this morning in the sportsbook?
Yeah, I'm actually looking at this Cowboys-Panthers game. I mean, this one should be one of my favorite matchups on the board, but I'm kind of scared to bet it because I don't want to bet on the Cowboys. So we'll see how that line moves in-game here.
Well, for me, this one feels a bit under the radar, but I got my eye on Brandon Cooks. Tank, I know you love him. He continues to produce regardless of uniform or quarterback, but this week's matchup is really tough. Bills cornerback Tre'Davious White has allowed just 3 catches per week to the receiver in his primary coverage. Cooks, on the other hand, he's caught 9 balls in back-to-back games, so we'll see who wins this battle. One thing is for sure, we are rooting for you to win all of your fantasy battles. In fact, we're here to help you do just that. So send your questions on Twitter using the AskFFL hashtag or drop a question in the chat and we'll try to answer as many as we can on the show. Plus, our own Scott Pianowski is back answering questions all morning long live on Twitter. All right, let's turn our attention to the actives and inactives and get some updates. Dalvin Cook is looking like he's going to be back out there for the Vikings this week, barring any issues pregame with that ankle injury. Broncos running back Melvin Gordon will also be in there as Denver hosts Baltimore. He's nursing a couple of injuries, but in that same game, Lamar Jackson is expected to play today after returning to practice on Friday. Rob Gronkowski did not travel with the Bucs to New England. A rib injury will keep him out this week and potentially longer, according to Ian Rappaport. Coach John Gruden said Josh Jacobs is a game-time decision on Monday night against the Bulls. He did return to practice on Thursday, but the ankle injury is something to consider when setting your lineups this morning. That's the latest. Now, let's get into our first over-under. Matt.
Yep, Andy talked about it, the flaming car accident that is the Chicago Bears. We can't stop talking about it. You can't stop talking about it. Our first over-under features Allen Robinson wasting away with the Chicago Bears thanks to the Un-American franchise tag. We're going to set the line here up at 49.5 receiving yards. And I'm going to go over. I mean, come on, 50 yards? I'm only asking for 50 yards here. Give me a break. Like, if Allen Robinson can't get 50 yards against a defense in the Detroit Lions that is allowing the most completions on 15-plus air yard throws this year, tied with the aforementioned Washington football team I talked about at the top. If Allen Robinson can't get 50 yards against this defense, I quit. Not really, bosses. I don't quit. But seriously, 50 yards, that's all I'm asking for here. Andy, you're probably more sensible man than me. Just I don't know. Just go ahead.
I'm just wired at this stage to be completely unable to take the over on any line related to the Chicago Bears. I don't know that they can block for a throw that is going to go 15 yards downfield. They certainly couldn't do it against Cleveland. Andy Dalton wasn't even trying. His average air yards per throw. It was like 4 yards when he was playing. I'm hoping for better for Fields today. It can't get much worse. Robinson doesn't have more than 35 yards in any game this year. He's had opportunities. I will say that if he's actually able to deliver a 1,000-yard season this year in this team context, this offensive context, he just goes straight to Canton. There's no mandatory waiting period, anything like that. He just goes straight to the Hall of Fame. But listen, I can't take the over here. I'm going under. I'm just hoping for like 45 yards and a score.
Tank, where are you at on this one, man?
Like, you're talking about 1,000-yard receiving season for Allen Robinson. Like, I don't know if these cats are going to get 1,000 total yards on the season, total offense. Like, this offense is bad, bro. Like, they're averaging less than 200 yards per game. Now, everybody and their mama knows that they should be able to get more than 200 yards. He should be able to get over 50 yards receiving against the Detroit Lions, but are you willing to bet on that? Yeah, me neither.
Well, there you go. Clearly, I hate money, and that's fine. It is what it is. All right, more over-unders coming up later in the show. Let's send it over to Liz.
It's time for some blazing hot predictions presented by Buffalo Wild Wings. We're asking fantasy managers for their fearless, blazing hot first half fantasy league predictions, all while they're having the greatest of all fantasy times over hot wings. Matt recently caught up with some fantasy footballers at Buffalo Wild Wings in Southern California.
I'm here with Eric and David and their whole crew having the greatest of all times here at Buffalo Wild Wings, eating some blazing hot wings, enjoying some good beers. But who is going to be the hottest fantasy player in your league for the first half of the season? David, you look like a smart guy wearing the Scott Fishbowl shirt. You clearly know your stuff. So who's going to be the hottest player in the first half of the season?
I'm going to go Jonathan Taylor, RB1. He is the #1 guy. He is on a great offense, great offensive line. I don't think Carson Wentz, Jacob Eason, I don't really think it matters. I think they're going to feed him the ball. He's #1 for me.
All right, Eric, on to you. Who is going to be the hottest player in the league over the first half of the year?
I'm a bit of a gambler, so I'm going to go David Montgomery. Everybody's so burnt out on him from drafting him too high as a rookie, running back coming out, all that hype. Now everybody's off of him, but he's just going to come out and dominate their league.
That's great stuff. All right, what else are you guys up to here at B-Dubs tonight?
Beer and wings.
Good answer. What about you?
Same, beer and wings, talking fantasy football.
I mean, fantasy football, beer, wings, that's great stuff. With 26 sauces, B-Dubs is ready for you and your whole crew to enjoy all the fantasy action all season long. Let's see who's hot. Blazing hot.
All right, time for some trends from the sportsbook, guys. The Vikings are 6-1 against the spread as home underdogs. They're home dogs against the Cleveland Browns today. Next up, we have an NFC North matchup between Chicago and Detroit. The Bears are 8-4-1 against the spread versus the Lions. And lastly, the Ravens are 8-1 against the spread as road underdogs. They take on Teddy Bridgewater and the Broncos in Denver today. I'll be back in a bit with my best bets for Week 4.
Let's get to our first check-in on social media this morning and answer some roster questions. Don't forget to send your questions to the hashtag AskFFL. Our first tweet comes from George, and George wants to know, he needs a flex. Emmanuel Sanders coming off of a big outing versus Houston, or Tim Patrick, remember KJ Hamler is out, versus Baltimore. I think I answered this on Twitter already, but Tank, I like the red zone appeal of Patrick, even though there should be a decent amount of points available in the matchup against Houston for Sanders. Who are you leaning towards?
Yeah, I'd probably go Patrick as well. I mean, one thing I hate to do is chase, and Emmanuel Sanders just got off last week, and so I feel like everyone's going to be chasing those points, and I also feel like some of the defenses are going to be trying to find ways to try to take him away, even though Stephon Diggs is always going to be the primary guy that you want to take away anywhere on the field. So with that being said, I feel like Tim Patrick, I mean, you're always going to focus on Noah Fant in the red zone, always going to focus on trying to take away Cortland Sutton. Patrick should always have the best matchup in the red zone in the game that may have a lot of points scored going up against that Ravens offense. So I like Patrick too.
All right, I like when we agree. Let's get to our next question. And it is from Siobhan. I hope I'm saying that correctly, and it doesn't matter if I'm not. Siobhan has a question about some running backs. Trey Sermon, now Elijah Mitchell not expected to play versus Seattle today, or Devin Singletary again. That matchup against Houston, we've seen Zach Moss eating touchdowns for a living, though. Andy, who here are you preferring?
Yeah, I think you gave him the key detail here with Singletary versus Moss. I mean, Moss is the guy who's on the field at least when they're in goal-to-go situations mostly. That was the case last year too, but Josh Allen took all the touchdowns. We've seen Zach Moss find the end zone a handful of times this year. So I just can't imagine Devin Singletary having that massive game. Not that I can imagine Trey Sermon having necessarily a massive game either, but I can imagine him having a huge workload in this one. Going to be a fun one, divisional matchup against Seattle. So I'm gonna lean Sermon there.
All right, I agree with you. Let's go to the next one. It's from Mitchy Mitch, and he has a question about the Saints. Hey, Lil Jordan led the Saints in receiving yards last week. Is it final? No, I don't think. I believe he was inactive actually in Week 3 at New England. But hey, Matt, maybe even if he was inactive, this is a time to get Lil Jordan Humphrey involved in Week 4. Do you think so, or should we move to the next question?
Nope. Don't play inactive players typically. Nope.
Another hot take for Matt Harmon.
Okay, all right, let's go ahead and move to the next one. Andy, it's for you, so listen up. I know you were really tilted about that Lil Jordan Humphrey question. This one is not that. It is from Omar, and he says, my dog, you helped me last week with Teddy advice. Hey, Justin Fields, just because we want to put some salt into your wounds, or Teddy at home versus Baltimore this week. Thank you.
Oh, I just gotta tell you, I hear from. It's not like I hear from Omar every day. I hear from Omar like every 2 hours every day. I love him. I love your dedication. I can't even imagine how many leagues you're in. You're absolutely my favorite follower. No questions about it. You get preferred expedited service. We even put you on the show. This is a nightmare of a question, right? Like Teddy's been pretty good, but hasn't really gone off for fantasy purposes necessarily. Gets a frisky Baltimore defense this week. I hate to say it, I would play Justin Fields here against Detroit. It's really close. I just think the ceiling for Teddy is so low. Not that Justin Fields' ceiling is particularly high, but I'm still banking on a little bit of rushing upside from Fields.
Okay, well that was a hot take, I think, actually. So Matt, let's go back to you. Listen up on this one. It's from Art. Who is going to provide him more, quote, bang for his buck? Dak Prescott, who is, facing that surging Carolina defense, or Derek Carr on prime time versus the Chargers?
Yeah, I'll dedicate a little more than one word to this one. I would go with Dak Prescott here in this spot, though. I'm a little nervous about Derek Carr going against the Chargers defense that has basically been a run funnel. I'm going to talk about it later when we do the over-unders, but I mean, they are stiff against the passing game right now, which is kind of the way they want to do defense under that Brandon Staley scheme. They want to not let you throw deep. They want to let you take the short stuff, and they will let you run on them. So I think, obviously, we saw Peyton Barber go crazy last week in the Raiders' backfield. Maybe Josh Jacobs is the guy to do it this week, but I think in terms of upside, in terms of ceiling, you're definitely looking at Dak Prescott. Even though the Panthers' defense has been great, we got to remember they're out J.C. Horn now, their star rookie corner.
All right, well, that's going to do it for a minute. We are going to take a quick break and be right back. Stay tuned.
me. I want the real me.
I feel like I'm a starter. Everybody feel like I'm a starter.
If you don't know me, feel free to judge.
People always ask, will Kevin Love go back to Portland?
If I was wearing a Portland jersey, I mean, that's special. That's playing at home.
Did you talk to LeBron?
We never really talked about those battles. We moved forward from that.
There's some lines that even ambassadors shouldn't cross.
And then there's the load management.
How you feel about that, Dr. J?
I'm Hannah Kaiser, and this is The Bandwagon. The best way to watch baseball is with an unnecessarily masochistic level of emotional investment. Check out these dance moves. Ohtani unleashed. Aliens fan. I don't know if they're watching. Huge fan. It was a socially distanced first pitch. He looks like a female superhero. This week on Humble Proposal, Jason Benetti, Jeff Passan, Shane Bieber. Every morning I wake up and I look at the standings and I'm like, who's out of the running? Nobody. Only the Pirates.
When I'm decorating a space, I'm constantly shopping, even on Yahoo Mail.
Oh, it's so perfect!
Finding the right piece really brings it all together.
Watch free, live football. The NFL is on your phone all season long. Watch the NFL live on the Yahoo Sports mobile app.
All right, we're going to play a little off their game. This is, you guys know this segment. This is where we talk about players who are rostered in at least 50% of leagues who we don't think are actually going to be at their best this week. Tank, get us started.
Yeah, I'm going with Chase Edmonds this weekend. I mean, obviously, you know I went with Antonio Gibson last week, so you may want to fade this pick. Even though I feel like my thought process was right, like Antonio Gibson averaged 2.6 yards last week, and then he takes like a little dump off past 73 yards. So if you're banking on Chase Edmonds to do the same thing, then good luck to you. But otherwise, that Rams defense gives up the 10th fewest fantasy points to running backs. If the Cardinals are in the red zone, more than likely it's going to be James Conner getting the toast, or my man Kyler Murray going zen in the end zone after running it in. So my whole point is, like, if you don't get in the zone, I got to leave you alone. And Chase Edmonds hasn't sniffed the end zone since 2020, so therefore you may want to protect your neck with that cat.
Matt, who's going to be off their game this week?
I mean, I don't have any fancy rhymes like Tank just did, but I'm definitely not too enthusiastic about Miles Sanders. We're talking about a guy who had five whole touches last week. That is not very exciting at all. And really, this Eagles offense as a whole has not been very exciting since when they're playing the Atlanta Falcons, which that doesn't really count. That's not really an NFL defense, so I'm not giving them much there. It's just not like the creative rushing offense that we would have thought they would design around Jalen Hurts, or just kind of running a typical offense, not really playing to his strengths overall, which we know is mostly on the ground game. That leads me to have some concerns about Miles Sanders. And, you know, maybe you'd think this is a week for them to course correct after clearly not running the ball enough was a problem against the Dallas Cowboys on Monday night last week. But the Chiefs are coming into town. The Chiefs are 1-2. They're going to be angry, and I'm playing into the angry narrative here. I think the Chiefs come in and blow the doors off a much inferior team in Philadelphia this week, and that is not a situation where you want to be chasing a early down running back for this team.
Yeah, that's a good call. I'm going to go actually with Saquon Barkley this week. And listen, there's a lot of reasons to feel pretty good about Saquon right now, because he's played over 80% of the snaps now in back-to-back games, coming off a game with 94 scrimmage yards. We like those things, but it's not Atlanta this week. It's New Orleans. And New Orleans on the season has allowed only 2.8 yards per carry, about 60 rushing yards per game. They have shut down some really good backs on the ground so far. Haven't really let anyone get off. Obviously, Saquon has a little receiving upside that can save his day in any circumstance, so feel good about that. Another issue with Saquon is he's actually seen one of the lowest percentages of 8 or more defenders in the box so far, and I gotta think that might change a little bit this week given the damage to New York's receiving core. So I don't think this is going to be a particularly good spot for Saquon. You can still play him, but I wouldn't bake on a big week here. Hopefully I hedged enough there. Liz, take it away.
Thanks, guys. Eckler's Edge is back this week with another special guest. Fantasy footballer Rainn Wilson, a.k.a. Dwight from The Office, joined Austin and I to discuss his Office Pass League and a controversial trade. Check it out. We are very excited to say that we are now joined by actor, comedian, writer, director, producer, and most importantly, fantasy football fanatic, Rainn Wilson. Thanks for being here, Rainn.
Liz and Austin, I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be with you guys. Thanks for having me on your little show.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Really looking forward to it.
Rainn, you are most well known for your portrayal of Dwight on The Office, but what we really want to talk to you about is the Office Fantasy Football League. I mean, how did it start? Who's involved?
So the Office Fantasy Football League is Dunder Mifflin. We do it there on Yahoo. I think like 12 years we've been going, and me and John Krasinski and Brian Baumgartner from the cast are very strong, and it's pretty cutthroat. We take it pretty darn seriously.
I think it's interesting that you have already mentioned your former castmate Brian Baumgartner, aka Kevin Malone, on The Office.
Yep.
He was recently a guest on The Rush here on Yahoo Sports, and he had this to say about your fantasy exploits.
Rainn talks more trash than anyone. Week to week, when you are competing against him, you will hear from him almost daily, and on Sundays multiple times, giving you updates as to how much he's kicking your ass, even though you're looking at it at the same time. He gets a little quiet when he's getting beat, though, that's for sure.
So, Rainn, I mean, what say you to that? Is it true?
It's true. What can I say? Guilty. We have a good time now. I lay it on a little heavy. I lay it on a little thick.
So, Rainn, we know that you're invested. What about John Krasinski? How are they at it?
John Krasinski did Yahoo Auto Draft because he was shooting Jack Ryan in like Romania or something like that. And he is in first place. He is the only 3-0.
Okay, Yahoo.
Well, Yahoo Auto Rankings, by the way, Yahoo Auto Draft is in accordance with the experts' rankings, so you're welcome.
All right. Well, I don't know. I'm looking at this team of his. I'm like, I don't know how he's done it. It's an okay team. I give it a B+, but I don't think it doesn't look like a 3-0 team to me. Sorry.
How have you been doing this year?
Well, thank God in my Office Fantasy Football League, I traded Austin Eckler, running back for the Los Angeles San Diego Chargers, for Ezekiel Elliott to Brian Baumgartner. And then Elliott got me like 26 points last night.
You traded me.
I traded you.
Traded me.
Sense in here.
Oh my goodness.
But hold on a second. The reason I traded you is I had you in my other league, and I just wanted to mix it up a little bit.
Okay,
and,
I'll take that.
Austin, you should know, because Rainn and I are in a different league together, and I drafted on behalf of Joel McHale, who's in the league, and Rainn and I got into a bidding war over you in that. So he has your back. You go tell him, Rainn.
I went to the mat for you, man. I way overpaid. This is an auction league.
Overpaid?
Man! I way overpaid, but
you need more from me is what you're saying. I'm gonna do my bet. Hey, it's not enough points for Rainn. Rainn needs more from Austin Eckler.
Thank you so much for joining us, Rainn. We really appreciate you being here.
Hey, so much fun. And Liz, I'll see you in our little league. And Austin, what a pleasure to see you, man. I hope to see you play live one of these days.
Heck yeah. You might not see me soon, but you'll see me on your fantasy team. It'll be, hey, I'll score you a bunch of points, and I'll be like my little wink to you, like, hey, I got you back, Rainn.
I love it.
Man, I can watch that all day. That's like a breakup show. Oh, wow, that was amazing. But it's time for you, week 4, primetime balls. I mean, that was amazing, Lizzie. All right, so let's just get to it. So we got the Sunday night football game, Tampa Bay versus New England. I wanted to put Gronk in here so bad, but Gronk has the bad back. So I'm going with Cameron Brate. What I'm trying to do right now is that we've seen the trend lately over the primetime games. They've been getting the tight ends involved a lot. Bruce Arians, BA, he loves to use the tight ends in the game, and so I don't see that actually going away, even though Gronk is injured. We heard, Gronk on Monday Night Football talking about, Brady in his ear, like, what do you do? Do you watch film? Like, how do you get open? So I feel like Brady took all that knowledge in, and he aces the test against Bill this week. Now, on the flip side, for the Patriots, I'm going with another tight end, Hunter Henry. Like, Jonnu Smith is probably the more athletic tight end, but we've already seen him trip, fall, juggle a ball into a defender's hands. And it doesn't take much to get in Bill Belichick's into the jail cell that Bill can lock you in. We've seen it with running backs. And oh, trust me, it can happen with tight ends too. Mac Jones doesn't like to throw the ball deep, so therefore I feel like Hunter's going to get a lot of targets in this game and probably get into the end zone as well. And for the superstar, like, it's a no-brainer. He's going to be the superstar in everyone's lineup. It's Tom Brady. Like, we're thinking about, like, the pettiness, you know, spite. He's going to be spiteful. Like, we're talking about the argument for who's going to be the GOAT. All that stuff just wrapped up in one at Gillette Stadium. And so I feel like Tommy Boy is going to come out angry. He's going to come out mad. We have an over-under coming up later about if he's going to get 3.5 touchdowns or not. Well, you see why I have him, so you can kind of lean towards where I'm going with that. So make sure you don't miss the layup on this one. Tommy Boy about to be fire hot. Now, moving on to the Monday night football game. We have the Chargers going against the Raiders. And so my first charge is going to be my man Herbert. Like, Herbert has been going off. Like, he outdueled Patrick Mahomes last week, you know, almost beat Dak at home a couple weeks ago. Really like the way the Chargers are playing on offense, using the run game to kind of help with the pass game. My man Mike Williams has been going ham. The Raiders have a nice rush defense. Those guys off the edge have been coming, so I feel like Justin Herbert will probably use his legs a little bit more in this game, which is why I feel like he probably has a higher floor in this one. Now, on the flip side for the Raiders, I'm going back to the same dude I did in week 1, and that's Bryan Edwards. Like, this dude has over 5 targets in 2 out of 3 games, and he also has over 80 receiving yards. And if you're looking at this game being a potential shootout, and everyone focusing on the big game that Hunter Renfrow had last week, and then also everyone's always going to be on Henry Ruggs. So I like to get a little bit of salary relief at the same time going to a guy who was used heavily in this offense last year, Nelson Aguilar. He plays the same position, so I feel like Edwards can get some of those looks in the red zone, so he could be a sneaky cheap play in this one. And so for my superstar, it'll be so easy to go with my cousin Mike Williams, because this dude been balling like every single week of the season. But I'm going with Keenan Allen, because if you look at the tape, you know that Keenan Allen is the dude on that team. Like, he runs the best routes, has the best hands, and I believe that Mike Williams has gotten so many targets because teams have been trying to focus on taking away Keenan Allen. Well, that may flip this week because, you know, Mike Williams has been going off. So I think that Keenan gets his first multi-touchdown game this week against the Raiders. And so that's why I have him in that superstar lineup. So now we're going to move on to my man Matt and my boy Rev for some of those unsexy flexi picks.
Yeah, let's help the people out here, Andy. We've got some interesting questions off the top. It's a fun week, especially at receiver. It's tough to break some ties here, but let's help. The first one up here comes in from Gator. We love it. Got to pick 2 out of Corey Davis, Michael Pittman, Hunter Renfrow, or Marquez Callaway. Andy, Marquez Callaway was lucky to come away with a touchdown last week. He, like, I don't even know what he was doing on that route. I don't know what Jameis was doing on that throw. I don't know a lot of what's going on in that offense right now, but who are you picking 2 out of these 4 options?
It was an amazing decision by Jameis to throw that ball. Just an absolute YOLO throw. Loved it. Needed it, actually, in a couple of places, so that was great. It's full PPR, so I understand why Renfrow is in this discussion, but for me, this has got to be the first 2. This has got to be Corey Davis, who's at least the clear number 1 in a matchup that is exploitable, and it's got to be Michael Pittman, who I think probably sees more targets than anybody else in this question. The problem with Callaway is just the targets haven't been there. Jameis hasn't thrown the ball, I think, even 25 times in a game, so there's just no volume.
Yeah, I'd actually rank Callaway 4th out of this debate, and I don't mind Hunter Renfrow at all. I'm going to talk about him a little later on the show, but I agree with you. It is the first 2 options. Michael Pittman is the, like, one of these things doesn't look like the other. Like, I think even though Carson Wentz stinks, the volume has been there. Michael Pittman is good at football. Like, I would start Michael Pittman as a wide receiver 3 almost every single week going forward. And Davis, yeah, the volume's been there. It's a revenge game, but oh, God, it is the Jets. I still think that's the best option of these 4, these first 2 ones here. All right, let's move on to our next one. We've got a bunch of options here, multiple different positions. Kareem Hunt, Jacoby Myers, Hollywood Brown, or Nyheim Hines. I guess we're just picking one here, Andy. Who is your favorite of these 4?
Oh, if I'm just picking one, it's probably Hollywood Brown. This is close, and if I had to tier them all in a flex conversation, I'd have them all just about in the same range. Man, Hollywood was so close to a big week last week. It was his own fault that he didn't get there. Just the most explosive player in this question. Hollywood is the one that I want here. I think he has a nice bounce back.
Interesting. I'm tempted by Kareem Hunt in a potential high-scoring game. He's coming off a big game by himself, but I love Jacoby Myers this week. I mean, the Bucs secondary is in such a bad position that they just had to sign Richard Sherman off the street, and they're like basically going to start him this week. So I would go with Jacoby Myers, a little more target-based safety there, though Hollywood Brown is not a bad option either.
I
All
love
right,
the
that's
spin
it
that
for
they
us.
put on Richard Sherman, by the way, where they just say, "Oh yeah, I picked it all up right away. He's ready to go."
Yeah, totally. Yeah. That's definitely like he needed to be out there, not like we had no other choice. This was basically it. No, he looked that good. Like, give me a break. I'm with you there on that one, Andy. All right, that's it for us. Let's do a little face-off action here with Liz and Tank.
Thank you, Matt. Let's get into our first fantasy face-off of the show, and let's start at my favorite, the tight end position. Tank, you like Tyler Higbee over Kyle Pitts this week. Why?
I will admit that Higbee has a tough matchup going against the Cardinals. I mean, they're kind of stingy against tight ends when it comes to fantasy points. But, I mean, we're looking at a game that probably is going to have a lot of points. I mean, if you look at the Bucs game versus the Rams last week, it started off a little slow, but then it got hot and then the points rolled in. I see the same thing coming with this game. And then plus, look at the dude who's throwing to your boy Kyle Pitts. Like, he's a physical specimen, but Matty twice the ice. Like, this dude has been just like killing fantasy lineups, to start the season. And I don't see anything changing. That offensive line has been a mess for years now, and I think this may be the perfect opportunity for that Washington defense to heat up. So I'd rather go with my man Higbee in a potential shootout than whatever that mess is Atlanta got going on.
Well, I agree with you that Higbee is safer. He crushed in DFS last week. But when Kyle Pitts is only $16, I cannot pass on him in our daily game. I also can't pass on him when he's getting one red zone look at least per week, and most importantly, when he's running 35 routes per game. Dawson Knox scored on the Washington football team last week. I think Pitts does it this week. I can't give up on him. If not now, then when? And I guess that's the big question. At running back, David Montgomery against the Lions or Miles Sanders against Kansas City. I'm going to take Montgomery because I'm a glutton for punishment, I guess. I understand the rationale for Sanders here, right? Like, oh, you want to play keep away against Patrick Mahomes. But, it would make sense that would be some logic you employed versus Dak and the Cowboys, and yet, nah. Just 2 carries in that game, which is evidence of why you cannot rely on rational coaching, which is exactly why you can rely on David Montgomery. Ain't nothing rational going up on in Matt Nagy's head. So you know that Montgomery is going to get 15 carries, and you know that the matchup is good because the Lions have given up 6 touchdowns to opposing running backs so far this season.
Yo, I like how you tried to flip that on me, talking about that there's nothing rational going on in Nagy's head, and that's why Montgomery's going to get the carries. Like, you trying to play some little voodoo Jedi mind tricks, but that ain't working, Lizzie. That is not working because we know, I'll admit that Sirianni messed up last week, only giving my man Miles Sanders like 3 totes in the run game, but he cannot make the same mistake against the Kansas City Chiefs. Why? Because you have to try any and every way to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. So it's a given that Miles Sanders is going to get a lot of carries in this one. But it's not a given that Nagy is going to do anything right in regards to Justin Fields, David Montgomery, Allen Robinson, or anyone else on that team when it comes to the Chicago Bears. So if there's any kind of rational thought in your bone, you will not go with David Montgomery over Miles Sanders in this one, or any Bear for that matter.
Oh, but thank God we have Cole Kmet. All right, we're going to take another break here because I'm getting a little heated on Fantasy Football Live. When we come back, we'll head to the Sportsbook for Week 4 player props and check in on what's trending. We'll be right back so I can cool off.
B, I want the real B.
I feel like I'm a starter. Everybody feel like I'm a starter.
If you don't know me, feel free to judge.
People always ask, will Kevin Love go back to Portland?
If I was wearing a Portland jersey, I mean, that's special. That's playing at home.
Did you talk to LeBron?
We never really talked about those battles. We moved forward from that.
There's some lines that even ambassadors shouldn't cross.
And then there's the load management.
How you feel about that, Dr. J?
I'm Hannah Kaiser, and this is The Bandwagon.
Yeah, baby.
The best way to watch baseball is with an unnecessarily masochistic level of emotional investment. Check out these dance moves. Ohtani unleashed. Aliens fan. I don't know if they're watching. Huge fan. It was a socially distanced first pitch. He looks like a female superhero. This week on Humble Proposal, Jason Benetti, Jeff Passan, Shane Bieber. Every morning I wake up and I look at the standings and I'm like, who's out of the running? Nobody. Only the Pirates.
When I'm decorating a space, I'm constantly shopping, even on Yahoo Mail.
Oh, it's so perfect.
Finding the right piece really brings it all together.
Watch free, live football. The NFL is on your phone all season long. Watch the NFL live on the Yahoo Sports mobile app.
And we're back here on Fantasy Football Live. And while you were gone, we were checking in on the social conversation. Here are the players that are trending right now. Andy, Tank, let's discuss them. You know what? I want to start with Jalen Waddle. I'm getting a lot of Jalen Waddle questions. I'm sure you are as well. It is wild to me to see a player with like 4.3 speed being used as a slot machine, right? Just like, I think his longest catch last week was 9 yards. What are we doing? But obviously in PPR formats, the volume that he's seeing coming off of, I think, 12 looks last week is keeping a nice floor there available to him. Andy, what are your thoughts on Waddle? Where are you ranking him this week?
Yeah, I think you actually nailed this. I think he's a reasonably solid wide receiver 3 on volume alone. And he's been kind of the opposite of what we might have expected, right? You wouldn't expect a lot of near the line of scrimmage targets for Jalen Waddle. He's a burner. He's seemingly a big play specialist. Been really good, and a dozen targets. Like, I think it was 13 targets in that game. Jacoby Brissett threw the ball 1 million times. So on volume alone, the worry here is I think the number in that game is just 42. Probably going to be a low-scoring game. Probably going to be an ugly game, Colts and Dolphins. But still, the volume has been there, and if you're playing in any sort of PPR, I think you want Waddle in a lineup.
All right, Tank, let's talk about Corey Davis in this revenge game situation. We're all expecting the Jets to be chasing points. Davis, we know, is Zach's #1 receiver, but it's a little bit tough to rely on him. He did catch 5 balls in week 1 and week 3. We're not going to talk about that matchup against New England. So what's your over-under on catches and maybe also yards for him? What would you project?
I mean, I think he's going to get a lot of targets. I mean, he's going against a really soft pass defense with the Titans, too. I mean, the one bad thing that you have to deal with is that it seems like regardless of who lines up at quarterback for the Jets, like, those cats see ghosts. Like, I think it's just a New York Jets thing. That wasn't a Sam Darnold thing. At the same time, Corey Davis, even though you're going to have Crowder coming back, I feel like Corey Davis is still going to get a lot of targets. He knows those Titans defensive backs really well, and I feel like with the way the game script is going to go, Zach wasn't going to have to throw the ball around a lot, and so Corey Davis could stumble his way into about, 7 catches, maybe 50, 60-something yards, and maybe get a touchdown against them, which isn't a bad outing.
I agree with you. I think that's a spot-on fearless forecast there. Let's get back to the sports book, though, because Minty and Matt are checking in on some player props. Guys, what do you have?
Yes, this is so exciting. Minty, I've been loving doing the player props with you all year. I love the ones you throw out. It challenges me to find some good ones too. So let's do this thing for week 4 right here. All right, hit me with your first one.
Okay, first one, we're going to Kirk Cousins over 35.5 pass attempts. Now, I know the Browns defense will be tough to play against, but I think playing in Minnesota will be tougher, and Kirk Cousins should excel at home. In fact, he's attempted 35 or more passes in 3 of his last 4 home games last year, and I mean, he attempted 38 passes just last week alone at home, so I like this over a lot.
I love that game environment for fantasy, too. I think that could be really high scoring. Dalvin Cook apparently is going to be back and ready to roll. That should be fun. It should help the entire Minnesota offense, so I like that one there from you. Also really like seeing the Chuba Hubbard, the Panthers, I guess, new starting running back with Christian McCaffrey out for maybe just this week, maybe next week. We'll see. I love getting him at the receiving line here, 22.5 yards. I mean, 22.5, that's it. I think he can smash this line. We saw last week that I think Royce Freeman's going to mix in maybe potentially a little bit more against the Cowboys this week, but Chuba Hubbard was the passing down back. He ran 19 routes to just 5 for Royce Freeman. I think that's a pretty big edge to him here in a game where I expect the Panthers to kind of be chasing the Cowboys, having to throw a lot. This offense just basically feeds targets to the running back position, whether it's McCaffrey, Mike Davis last year, and Chuba. I think Chuba Hubbard is a good bet to get over this line here.
Agree with you, and I'm actually going to go, my next prop is going to be a kicker. Chris Boswell over 5.5 kicking points. Yes, we rarely talk about kickers here. Now, I know, playing against Green Bay's defense is going to be a little tricky, but I think Pittsburgh will have to settle for quite a few field goals. I mean, I don't think we have a lot of expectations for Pittsburgh today, especially against Green Bay. So I think Chris Boswell's going to do his thing. All he needs is 2 field goals, right? And I think that's an easy over.
I mean, yeah, that's going to have to be their offense because Ben Roethlisberger is cooked. So I like you bringing up the kicker, and that one did not see that coming. All right, my last one here in that same game that you talked about earlier, Vikings versus Browns. I am going over on Odell Beckham here at 65.5 receiving yards. Cleared it last week in his first game back. I think Beckham looked great in his return to the Browns this year. And honestly, in weighted opportunity, which is a stat that mixes air yards and target share, he ranks 3rd in weighted opportunity per game among wide receivers. Just to put that in some context, he's sandwiched between Devontae Adams and Cooper Kupp. So there was no limitation on Odell Beckham in his 2021 debut. Love to see that from him. And this is just, again, a high-scoring matchup, good game environment. I think Beckham looks all the way back. The usage looks like it's all the way back for Beckham. I can't wait for Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham. Minty, you saw it. They connected on like a little back shoulder pass there. I can't wait for them to lay waste to the narrative that, oh, they just can't have any chemistry, these two guys. So I am very excited to take the over here on Odell Beckham's line.
Same here. That should be a good game.
Absolutely should be a good game. What will also be good is later on, Minty and I are going to be back at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Eastern for Yahoo Sportsbook Live. Full 30 minutes. Send your questions in on Twitter there at the handles below. I am very excited about this. We're going to be talking about some player props for the Sunday night, Monday night game. Shout out to me. I'm 14-4 so far on my props through the first 3 weeks. So yeah, tune into the show because Minty and I are going to be crushing it.
All right, over under number 2. I'm not sure if you guys have heard, but Tom Brady this week is actually facing his former team. We're literally the only people talking about it. Nobody else is discussing this. And we have set the line for his passing touchdowns at, it's enormous. It's 3.5. Listen, when I started with Yahoo back in 1974, we would set an over under for passing touchdowns at like half a TD, 1.5 TDs maybe if it was like Ken Stabler, but 3.5 touchdowns is crazy. I get it, he's done it twice, and then in the other game he passed for 400 yards. He's been brilliant so far. Let's just have a little nod of respect for New England's defense. They're only giving up about 160 passing yards per week, only like 3 passing scores on the season. So I think this is a great game for Brady, but by great game I mean like 330 yards and 3 touchdowns. I think he's just under. Matt, what say you?
Well, first of all, I say, Andy, if you've been working here that long, you are aging just as well as our good friend Tom Brady. And I will also say that I am going over on this very aggressive line for a couple different reasons here. Yeah, the Patriots defense has been whatever so far. The Bucs offense has been one of the best, if not the very best, offense in the entire NFL. Brady's crushing it. No Gronk. I don't care. Antonio Brown is back this week. We got Mike Evans. Chris Godwin is absolutely cooking in the slot. Things are just firing on all cylinders for Tampa Bay. And I'm not going to be the guy that's going to come in like for this much hype matchup and be like, let's temper your expectations for Tom Brady and his big revenge game. He wants to go in there and absolutely put it on the Patriots. He'll throw 5. He'll throw 6. They're number 1 in neutral pass rate. It's going to be passing all day for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I will be taking the over on this one and anything else you want to feed me on Tom Brady this week.
I feel like that little voice that Herman does, I feel like that's a Barron's impression. I don't know. He's never said it, but I kind of feel like that's what's going on with that. Tank, you tipped your hand on this already. Tell us why you're taking the over.
Man, I'm going the over on touchdowns and the over with the pettiness. Like, I'm telling you, dog, like, this is like a revenge. This is like the ultimate revenge game. Like, this dude had his daddy on the radio talking noise about Bill Belichick. Like, dog, like, when have you ever heard about Tom Brady's dad saying anything? And he was talking hot fire about Bill Belichick on the radio. That right there tells me that Tommy Boy is going, if he can throw for 10, 12 touchdowns, he's going to do it. And I know for sure if Jameis can throw for 2 and 1 being a YOLO that only Jameis can complete, I can see Brady throwing for at least 4, with 3 of them being only passes that Brady can complete.
Oh, you guys have actually talked me into it. I'm a coward. I can't believe I took the under here. He's definitely going over. Liz, take it away.
No problem. All right, let's talk about some sleepers. And what do you know? I have a couple for you. How about Tyler Heineke? He threw 2 picks last week, but Taylor Heineke ran for 21 yards. The backup in DC may have a flawed game, but he's been producing for fantasy managers, finishing inside the top 12 quarterbacks in back-to-back weeks. I think he does it again today at Atlanta. And I know what you're thinking. Daniel Jones didn't get there last Sunday, but his entire receiving core got hurt. And by the way, Danny Dogecoin still rushed for 39 yards. Heineke is averaging 5 carries per game, and he gets Curtis Samuel back this week. Plus, the Falcons are giving up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Give me all of the Taylor and none of the Tyler in week 4. From 2 T's to 2 B's and 2 H's, let's talk about Bill Belichick's favorite tight end, Hunter Henry. The former Chargers role has grown since the start of September. Every week, he's run more routes and drawn more looks. In week 3, he recorded 5 out of a season-high 6 targets. That probably had a lot to do with James White's exit from the game, and I think Henry will continue to see volume with White's sideline. Jonnu Smith, yeah, he's gonna be in the mix, but New England is going to be chasing points in this one, and the Bucs have allowed the 10th most receiving yards to opposing tight ends. Henry is a top 14 play for me this week. So those are some players that I'm talking about, but let's get this conversation back to you and check in the chat with Matt.
Yes, let's talk to the people out there. If you're in the chat room right now, I'm looking at the thing on Facebook, so send in some good questions. Tank, let's start off with this one, because I'm actually, this is a good question. Like, sometimes the questions aren't that good. This one is an actually good question here from Fabian on Facebook. Asks us, Tyler Lockett or Antonio Brown in the flex in a full-point PPR? We know that Lockett's dealing with some injuries right now. I know there's some folks out there like thinking, oh, maybe decoy status. Tank, where are you going between these 2 guys?
Well, first, let me be the ultimate politician and say that they're always good questions, even though they may not be. But I'm going with AB, dog. Like, I understand that we always say, like, you never bench Tyler Lockett, and I also understand that Brady has all these different weapons to throw it to, but AB also has a little bit of revenge, too. Like, AB left New England probably just a tad saltier than, well, I guess a tad less salty than Tommy Boy, but, you know, there's still some hatred there, and so if Gronk can't get his revenge against Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots, I feel like he's going to at least let AB get his.
Yes, that is true, although I will say I feel like the Patriots probably hate AB more than AB hates the Patriots, so I don't really know how that one works out in terms of the revenge scale, but we shall see when it happens on Sunday night. I would go with Lockett, though. I know there's some injury risk, of course, everything, we know that, but man, it's a great matchup against the San Francisco defense. It's playing that cornerback roulette. Josh Norman, a guy that they signed late in the process, then is already out. Like, he would have to play major snaps. He's not playing. Tough situation there. I think I would chase Lockett's ceiling, but you cannot go wrong with AB in a spot where Tank and I think that Tom Brady's going to throw 4 touchdowns. One of them is probably going Antonio Brown's direction. All right, let's take one more here from Sean. Robbie, oh God, how has it come to this with Robbie Anderson? I know how. It's because he hasn't done anything in fantasy, but Tank, Sean asked us, Robbie Anderson or the Falcons' #1 offensive threat, Cordero Patterson?
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Like, man, dang. Yeah, Robbie Anderson has fallen down to the depths of the ocean. I would say, man, like, I'm talking about Robbie later. And it's one of those things where, like, I actually like the game script that I think is going to play out, you know, with the Carolina Panthers going up against Dallas. So I just go ahead and say, Robbie, I'll let you go ahead and give all your talking points, but I'm going Robbie. And then I'll talk about it later.
I was really counting on you to have some good talking points. I'm not talking about Cordero Patterson as some what is Arthur Smith doing? Like, you became a head coach just to be like the one guy that figures out Cordero Patterson as an offensive player.
Right. I mean,
I don't know about that.
The dude is an athletic specimen now. Now we had to talk about Cordero Patterson and Mike Davis. I'm pretty sure like we can give some really juicy takes.
Well, yeah. I mean, Mike Davis has been flamethrowed on this show for the last couple of weeks, and I feel like we take it easy on him this week. No, let's not take it easy on him. I think I'm going to go with Robbie Anderson in a high-scoring matchup. Trayvon Diggs might be locked up with DJ Moore. Still like Moore this week, but I think Robbie Anderson, I heard some chirping coming out of him this week. Maybe a little squeaky wheel gets the grease narrative on that one. Again, just a more high-scoring game, better environment. I'm going to go with Robbie Anderson. But that's going to do it for us in terms of the chat room. We're going to take another break here on Fantasy Football Live. When we come back, Judge Andy Behrens returns to the courtroom, the high court of fantasy football, to discuss Dynasty League trades. Oh, baby, I cannot wait to hear that. We'll get his ruling after the break.
B, I want the real, B.
I feel like I'm a starter. Everybody feel like I'm a starter.
If you don't know me, feel free to judge.
People always ask, will Kevin Love go back to Portland?
If I was wearing a Portland jersey, I mean, that's special. That's playing at home.
Did you talk to LeBron?
We never really talked about those battles. We moved forward from that.
There's some lines that even ambassadors shouldn't cross.
And then there's the load management.
How you feel about that, Dr. J?
I'm Hannah Kaiser, and this is the Bandwagon. Best way to watch baseball is with an unnecessarily masochistic level of emotional investment. Check out these dance moves. Ohtani unleashed. Aliens fan. I don't know if they're watching. Huge fan. It was a socially distanced first pitch. He looks like a female superhero. This week on Humble Proposal, Jason Benetti, Jeff Passan, Shane Bieber. Every morning I wake up and I look at the standings and I'm like, who's out of the running? Nobody. Only the Pirates.
When I'm decorating a space, I'm constantly shopping, even on Yahoo Mail.
Oh, it's so perfect.
Finding the right piece really brings it all together.
Watch free live football. The NFL is on your phone all season long. Watch the NFL live on the Yahoo Sports mobile app.
All right, time for another over-under here. This is on the Monday night game. I cannot wait to hear what you two both think about this one. I'm excited to watch this game, Earl. This is going to be really fun, but we're going to set this one with Derek Carr here at 369.5 passing yards. Carr has been on fire through the air so far. One of the most surprising players to start the year. I love the Raiders offense overall, but I am going under on this line. I mentioned it earlier in the show. I hate to take unders. It feels so boring, feels so disgusting, but I'm gonna do it here because I have a lot of respect for what Brandon Staley's doing with this Chargers pass defense right now. They're giving up just a 26.2 passer rating on throws of 15+ air yards. It's the second lowest in the entire NFL, just 5 completions overall there, but they will let you run on them. I think this is a game where the Raiders go heavy. They put the ball in Josh Jacobs or Peyton Barber's belly, doesn't matter who. Those guys are going to get a ton of carries because you can run on the Chargers, but you can't really throw on them. Minty, what say you about your Raiders here?
I don't like your under because I'm going over. Derek Carr has well exceeded this number in all 3 games. I know. So, yeah, this is a special moment. He's well exceeded that in all 3 games so far this season. And, I mean, he's the passing yard leader so far this season. So, I mean, I'm not going to overanalyze things. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game, so I have to go over here.
Oh, I hate taking unders in general. I definitely don't like going against Minty when she's taking it over. I mean, give me a break. Liz, help me out here. Are you going to make me feel any better about my pick?
I think I am. I mean, I'm tilting, but the fact that Minty is going over and we as a pair are going under is a little bit something. But yeah, I mean, yes, Minty, you mentioned it. Carr is leading the league in passing yards. 1,200 on the season, like 400 per game, but that's because 2 of the last 3 games came in overtime. What a way to pad your stats. An extra quarter of play. Hello. Also, I like Matt's point about the Chargers defense here. You know, they have done a really good job of erasing big plays, splash plays. No Tyreek Hill really last week. I think they're going to take care of the speedster out of Alabama, Henry Ruggs. And you're going to probably see much more of Renfro get loose in this one because the speed that Ruggs has is going to garner all of the defensive attention under Brandon Staley, who's removing these super explosive plays. So I am, going to take the under on this one as well.
Oh, wow. I mean, 2 unders and 1 over, and it's minty. That is a record-breaking one on the show. Let's get out of this little tilt zone here and send it over to our resident court expert judge, Andy Behrens.
Oh, all right. Our case this week is less of a formal case and more of a fantasy PSA. And this is a question that comes in from Andrew. Get a lot of these. People throw a lot of trades my way. And Andrew writes in, this just went through in my Dynasty League. Is it as bad as it seems for Team 2, who is already at the bottom of the league? Team 1 gets Joe Mixon, Mike Williams, and Dawson Knox. Team 2 gets Josh Jacobs, Jalen Reagor, and a first-round pick. First of all, often when people complain about trades to me, I can't even tell which side they think is getting the filthy steal. And I guess I get it here, but it's also very common for people to see complaints from various dynasty managers who want every trade to be judged by the current year, right? And current year standards. That's not how it works. That's not why we play Dynasty. The fun in Dynasty is actually building for future seasons, sometimes at the expense of the current year. Like, that's what we do. That's how the game is played. I think there's a really good chance that 10, 11 months from today, you're looking back at this trade and you can't believe that Team 2 has a couple of first-round picks and has this huge advantage. That's the most likely scenario here. Listen, the other thing is, and I know you're complaining that they're at the bottom of the league and they're getting worse. Little thing that we just looked at in the Yahoo Fantasy Plus newsletter is the performance, the playoff probability of 0-3 teams versus 3-0 teams. If you're sitting at 0-3 right now in a 10 or a 12-person league, you have about a 16 or 17% chance to make the playoffs. If you're 3-0, you're at about 85%. So it gets late early in these leagues, right? So I see a responsible fantasy manager who's just doing the right thing and is building for next season in a format that allows it. The Dynasty format, this trade is fine. This trade, almost every trade that you guys send me is fine. This one is particularly fine. And the other thing I just want to remind you of is that if you think somebody is getting fleeced in a deal, don't spin your wheels complaining about it. You should go target that manager in a deal as well. That's it. That's my rolling. This trade is entirely fine.
Yo, what it do, baby? It's your boy T Money coming with my week 4 Ballers on the Budget. Now let's get right to it. At quarterback, I'm going with my man Jameis Winston versus the New York Giants at $25. Now, we've seen the football guys bless Jameis against the Green Bay Packers, and then also that one throw against the Patriots that we talked about earlier. Now the Saints are going back home. First home game after Hurricane Ida. I'm from the South, 45 minutes from New Orleans. Y'all do not know what this game means to those people in New Orleans and to all the Saints fans around that area. This game is going to be a smash. So I'm talking about Alvin Kamara, Saints defense. Like, if you ain't listening to me all the other weeks, last year, 2 years ago, you better listen to me now. Saints going to smash this week, especially Jameis too. Now at running back, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, I think Liz said on Twitter that she wished her mother-in-law forgave her as much as Andy Reid forgives Clyde Edwards-Helaire because the dude fumbles and all he does is get some more totes. And now he has an amazing matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles run defense. And I feel like he's actually going to ball off. And also just because everyone's off of him, just because he's played so badly to start the season. But at the same time, he had 17 carries, 100 yards last week. I think he builds on that in this game. That's a must-win for KC in Philadelphia. Now at wide receiver, Robbie Anderson going against the Dallas Cowboys, $15. Like, yeah, my man's been chirping, and rightfully so. Like, Robbie Anderson was the best wide receiver, arguably, on that team last year, giving them tons of big plays, but DJ Moore has been that dude, and rightfully so. Matt Rule has even said that he needs to get Robbie Anderson more involved. No more Christian McCaffrey. I think that the Dallas Cowboys are going to try to take away DJ Moore, which means that there's going to be more opportunities for Robbie Anderson and a potential shootout in this one. So I really like him at this cheap value of $15. Now at tight end, I'm going with Evan Ingram going against those Saints. Now I understand that I just told you that they're going to smash. At the same time, there's no Sterling Shepard. You also have Darius Slayton out. My man Saquon Barkley, like my man Rev already told you, like it's gonna be tough sledding against that Saints run defense. So Daniel Jones gonna have to throw it to somebody. Ken Golladay, he's been all broke up to start the season. So I think Evan Ingram will get a lot of targets, maybe fall in the end zone, and he'll be able to justify that cheap price at $12. So remember, the T is for the money, and the money is something that you will not have in your pocket if you do not put my folks in your lineup, especially the Saints. Now, producer Dan, let's go to these stats, because my girl Lizzie smashed us last week, and she used my cousin Mike Williams to do it. Now, Lizzie, I told you that I like you next to me, but I don't like you right where you are right now. So we have to do a little something about this. Andy is, respectable. Matt too. Even Minty is in the hunt. Like, this thing is kind of thick compared to where it usually is, so I'm getting a little excited about where this thing is going. I can't talk as much trash as I normally do. So Lizzie, go ahead and get your spread on. Do what you do, baby girl.
I got it. You all can still get in on the action in daily fantasy. This morning on Yahoo, our big $1 million baller contest is open, and you can win cash prizes. First place takes home $100,000. I'd like that. And an entry into the first ever Yahoo Fantasy Football Championship Live Finals. Visit the Daily Fantasy Football lobby and join in on the fun.
All right, excited in the fantasy community segment to be joined by Ray Garvin of Destination Devi of FTN. Ray, my man, I'm excited that we're finally kind of getting to collaborate on a video here. We've been talking about doing this for a long time now.
Yes, we've interacted over the Twitter space quite a bit, so this is exciting to get a chance to talk to you, my man.
Your specialty is studying prospects, studying these guys as they come into the NFL. So I think right now here heading into week 4 is a pretty good time to kind of do a little check-in on some of the rookies. Let's start off with the obvious guy, the one that everybody is most excited about from a fantasy perspective, which is Najee Harris. Where are we at sort of with what's going on with him?
Yeah, this is a situation that's very concerning. The good thing is he's still getting the volume. I think of all Pittsburgh snaps this season, he's been off of the field a handful of times the entire season. The problem is the offensive line is atrocious. The quarterback play is non-existent, and he's running for his life, getting contacted behind the line of scrimmage just about every time he touches the ball. But the reason why I'm not concerned is because of his involvement in the receiving game, and that was one of his calling cards coming out of Alabama. He's a talented back. He's a big bruiser, and he can catch the ball. So I'm still in on Najee, but the situation does not look good.
Let's flip to the receivers a little bit. Devontae Smith, what have you seen out of Devontae Smith so far? And what's the outlook the rest of the year? Because I still kind of have my reservations about Jalen Hurts the rest of the year.
Well, I think that's the issue. I don't think the issue is Devontae Smith, because anybody with half a brain knew that he would be walking into probably 100 targets this season at a minimum. And I think he's still pacing for those 100-plus targets. The issue is the quality of the target. Jalen Hurts has not looked good. So I think long-term, Devonta Smith is going to be fine. Whether we see improvement from Jalen Hurts, maybe a quarterback traded to Philadelphia, and there's a good chance they have 3 first-round picks next year. Quarterback situations change. I'm still betting on the talent of the former Heisman Trophy winner. He's going to be a really good player, and he's shown some flashes early this season.
Yeah, I still feel like he'll be a pretty solid wide receiver 3, like bit boom bust because of the offense that he's in. And I mean, that I do a lot of work with route running and everything like that. Like He should be a timing, like be with a perfect like timing anticipatory passer. I don't think Jalen Hurts is that. I kind of doubt that he will ever get to that. So it's just a wait and see game the rest of the way. Ray, real quick to wrap up here. What the hell is going on with these rookie quarterbacks, man? It's a legit nightmare out there from like an EPA standpoint. They've been like one of the worst classes to ever start their career, and we were all pretty excited about these guys.
I think that two of the quarterbacks are playing like rookies. I think Mac Jones and Trevor Lawrence are playing like rookie quarterbacks thrust into situations that aren't very good. New England, say what you want about Jacoby Myers, say what you want about Nelson Aguilar, Jonnu Smith. They do not have a wide receiver that can just go make it happen. Those two are playing like rookies. Justin Fields in his first start, he looked lost, but it was his first start versus Myles Garrett, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Jadeveon Clowney. That's a tough task for a rookie quarterback to start his first game on the road. The player that I am concerned about is Zach Wilson, and we know that Zach Wilson has the arm talent. These next 2 weeks are going to be telling for Zach Wilson. The Tennessee Titans and the Atlanta Falcons. After that, they've got a bye, and you don't even want to see the schedule for the Jets after the bye.
I agree. Let's see what the Jets offense can do, if anything, against these next couple matchups. Because if it's still a train wreck, then I think we've got a problem. I appreciate you, man. Tell the people where you can be found on social, all your work, everything like that.
Ray GQ, follow me everywhere. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. Appreciate you having me on, Matt. This was a blast.
Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, let's check back to Twitter for some more viewer questions at the hashtag AskFFL. This first one comes from Rain City. Someone dropped Will Fuller. Should I try to snag him? He's in a 14-man PPR, and his bench is Tyson Williams, Christian Kirk, Tim Patrick, Devin Singletary, Jacoby Myers, who's his flex, and Rashad Bateman, who, by the way, activated off IR, did practice this week, but is not active today, week 4. Jeff Wilson in San Francisco. And T.Y. Hilton. I think you can kind of drop T.Y. Hilton and scoop Fuller if you're feeling okay. He is active today despite being injured and inactive previously. Matt, what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I think if that's your bench, there's no one that I'm clearly dropping for Will Fuller. I don't mind Will Fuller for the rest of the season. I was in on him from a draft standpoint, but they're just not pushing the ball downfield in Miami, and Jalen Waddle is soaking up those short area targets, which I actually think is great for him. I'm pretty high on Waddle the rest of the way. Really liked him as a prospect. So I kind of think Fuller is mostly just going to, if you had an obvious drop, I would, no question, I'd add Will Fuller in a 14-team league. He should be on rosters. I just don't see anybody on this bench that you're definitely going to drop for him. I think, your options there are probably better than him over the course of the rest of the season. Not that I don't like Will Fuller, it just is what it is.
Yeah, always a gamble with Will Fuller, too. Let's move to the next one. It is for you, Minty, and it is from Dem Raiders. Minty, our very aggressive overtaker always. This is the question, who is your trap game this week? You've been on it, girl.
Well, my trap game this week it is the Bucks-Patriots game, which I will go over in our best bets segment in a little bit. But another game that I could see as a trap is the Browns-Vikings game. Now, the Vikings opened up as 2-point home favorites, which didn't make sense to me because the Browns are obviously the better team here. But now, a lot of money coming in on the Browns. Now the Browns are the favorites. I think the right side will be the Vikings as home underdogs. So that is another trap game I'm looking at.
Andy, we have an Allen Robinson question, so I'm going to go to you. It is from James Sims. I prepared you, friend. He wants to know, should he start Deontay Johnson, who is active today, obviously, or Allen Robinson in half-point PPR?
Yeah, two players here who, of course, don't have quarterback issues at all. No concerns here whatsoever. I think I would lean Deontay Johnson here. And listen, I'm going to talk about the Steelers in a little bit. And Ben Roethlisberger is like a zombified version of himself right now. But he can still target Deontay Johnson 10, 12 times at or near the line of scrimmage. I think that's what we get here. It's just really hard to trust Allen Robinson for much more than, say, 40-ish, 45 yards, and you can just hope for a touchdown.
I agree completely. As a fellow Bears fan, I'm also going with Deontay Johnson because remember, no Chase Claypool this week. It is time for another break here on FFL. When we return, Minty's best bets for week 4 are coming at you. Here's another look at who's in and who's out this week. Be right back.
B, B, I want the real B.
I feel like I'm a starter. Everybody feel like I'm a starter.
If you don't know me, feel free to judge.
People always ask, will Kevin Love go back to Portland?
If I was wearing a Portland jersey, I mean, that's special. That's playing at home.
Did you talk to LeBron?
We never really talked about those battles. We moved forward from that.
There's some lines that even ambassadors shouldn't cross.
And then there's the load management.
How you feel about that, Dr. J?
I'm Hannah Kaiser, and this is the Bandwagon. The best way to watch baseball is with an unnecessarily masochistic level of emotional investment. Check out these dance moves. Ohtani unleashed. Aliens, fan. I don't know if they're watching. Huge fan. It was a socially distanced first pitch. He looks like a female superhero. This week on Humble Proposal, Jason Benetti, Jeff Passan, Shane Bieber. Every morning I wake up and I look at the standings and I'm like, who's out of the running? Nobody. Only the Pirates.
When I'm decorating a space, I'm constantly shopping, even on Yahoo Mail.
Oh, it's so perfect.
Finding the right piece really brings it all together.
Watch free, live football. The NFL is on your phone all season long. Watch the NFL live on the Yahoo Sports mobile app.
Welcome back to Fantasy Football Live. Let's head straight to the sportsbook because it's time for Minty and I to debate her best bets for this week. Minty, what do you have?
All right, first up is going to be the Cardinals, +4 over the Rams. And I like the Cardinals so much that I'm even going to bet them to win straight up on the money line at +170. Now, the Rams have had an easy schedule up until the last week's win against the Bucs, so everyone's going to be high on the Rams here because I think their defense is going to have a tough time against this Arizona offense with, mobile quarterback, improved run game, and of course, great passing game. Now, I love Arizona in the underdog role. I always say it, so that's why I am so high on Arizona in this game.
Interesting, Minty. All right, so the money line makes me a little bit nervous, admittedly, but I do agree with you that I think Arizona is going to cover. Surprisingly, these two teams are very close in total DVOA. In fact, they're separated by just 0.3 of a single percentage point. So I do think Arizona will cover, but I'm not willing to go ML all the way. You have another NFC West matchup. Take me to that one.
Yes, I love the NFC West so much. We're going to go to the Seahawks Niners, and I'm liking the over 51.5. Now, I know that I set kind of high, but Seattle's defense has holes in it, but they're also very capable of answering a score with a score of their own. Now, San Francisco is averaging about 29 points per game, and Seattle is not too far behind them. Now, the over has hit in 5 of their last 6 meetings, so that is why I like this to be a high-scoring affair.
Oh, I'm always reluctant to go against you, Minty, because you're so good, but I just think this game could get real messy. There are so many big playmakers injured that I'm not sure both teams are going to be firing at full power, so I'm going to take the under on this one. All right, let's talk about the game that everybody is talking about, Tommy's return to New England. You have a best bet on this one.
I don't know if it's my best bet, but it's important to know that roughly 90% of bets and money are on the Buccaneers, and they opened as 5.5-point favorites, and now they're 7-point favorites. I haven't seen this line move since that opening line, yet people keep betting on the Buccaneers. Now, no one wants to bet against Tom Brady, and the Patriots have looked rough with Mac Jones under center, but I think this defense is really underrated here. Now, they're 5th in opponent points per game and 5th in total yards allowed. So I think this Patriots defense can hold off Tampa Bay, and that's why I have faith in Bill Belichick today in the Patriots to cover 7 points.
Girl, nah. I am driving all the way down Narrative Street. I mean, Gronk not being active definitely pours some cold water on the whole besties besting Bill Belichick narrative, but I do not think that Mac Jones is going to be able to keep pace. And by the way, the Patriots defense has underwhelmed. This is not the same defense that everyone anticipated it should be, so no, I don't think the Patriots cover. All right, Monday night, what you got?
All right, for Monday night, oh my gosh, I love this matchup. But the Chargers are favored by 3 points. The Chargers are 5-10-1 against the spread as favorites. So that's why I like the Raiders here. They've been looking pretty good lately, and I think the Chargers will be their toughest competition to date. So I actually really like this to be a close game. I think the Raiders cover and have a really great chance of winning straight up here as well. But I like to take the points instead.
Said the woman who's based in Las Vegas. So I agree with you that the Raiders are going to keep this close, right? We've seen them do just that with 2 overtime games out of the past 3 weeks. And on offense, according to offensive DVOA, these teams are pretty closely matched. But I just don't think. Nope, I'm going to take the Chargers. I don't think the Raiders can cover. I'm all in. Maybe it's my Austin Eckler bias here coming in, but I appreciate the stones with which you are calling these best bets. There's still time to adjust those lineups, guys. So let's get to our fantasy freebies for this week. Keep it rolling, Matt.
Yeah, let's talk about some players that are under 25% started in Yahoo leagues, but might be able to help you out. Andy, I'm going to toss this to you first, and if I see this right, you're going to talk about a defense. Minty's talking about kickers and the player props. You're talking about defenses. What world is this?
Yeah, listen, if Minty can talk about a kicker, which I totally respect, absolutely respect it, surely I can talk about a defense here. I've added the Green Bay defense in a whole bunch of places this week. They're only $10 in our DFS game, by the way. They're coming off a game with 4 sacks, a couple of turnovers generated in that one. And this week, they are facing zombie Ben Roethlisberger. Just has not looked even like a bad impression of old Ben Roethlisberger, right? He's been sacked already 8 times this season without ever once looking downfield. This is just a great opportunity for Green Bay. They're like a touchdown favorite at home. It's a low total in this one. I just don't think we're going to get much from Pittsburgh in this one, period. Chase Claypool out. That's a dynamic playmaker who won't be on the field. So I think we're going to get a really low point total from Roethlisberger and the Steelers, and probably multiple turnovers.
All right, yeah, I can't hate you on that one at all, even though it's a little weird talking about defense. I'm a little thrown. So, Tank, what do you got for us this week?
All right, well, I'm going to get back to our positional players. I mean, I'm going with Zach Moss. Like, I know people were worried about that Bills offense because they started off a little cold. You know, they lost to the Steelers, but hey, they warmed up now. And Zach Moss is actually warmed up in the red zone, too. Like, this dude has 7 rushes to Josh Allen, 6 inside the 10. He's out-snapping my man Devin Singletary. And so when you mix up all those things together, you also have a matchup against that Houston defense that gives up the 8th most fantasy points to running backs. And I feel like the game script is going to be heavily in his favor because I see the Bills jumping out to a big lead and then maintaining it. So he should get some totes in the red zone and should stumble into the end zone, definitely justifying his, his right to be a fantasy freebie this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Great sleeper call there. I'm going to give us our last one here. Hunter Renfrow at the Chargers. Sometimes, you're doing your research during the week. You think you've got a real good stat, and you just gnaw on that thing like a dog with a bone. And that is what I'm going to do here with the fact that the Chargers are great against defending the deep pass. Mentioned it earlier, 2nd lowest passer rating allowed. Just the only 5 total catches on 15-plus air yard throws. The Chargers, Brandon Staley, that scheme, they want to keep it short. They want to just give you those little check down completions, and Renfrow is that guy for the Raiders. Just an 8.2 air yards per target average. Everybody else is way up higher than that, but he's actually been pretty involved in the offense overall. 22 targets over the first 3 games. That is 2nd most on the team, ahead of guys like Bryan Edwards and Henry Ruggs. So if you need yourself a little sneaky play here, I think Hunter Renfrow could end up with something like 8 catches in this game. Pretty high scoring game that it should be. All right, now that's enough of us, blabbering, bloviating, us analysts talking about this stuff. No one cares about these. No one wants to hear me say anything about the Chargers pass defense ever again after I've done it like 5 times on the show. So let's hear from you people, the people, my people in the Fantasy Football Survival Kit. We asked you, what is the player evaluation, the situation that you are most confident you got right so far this season? Let's get right into it. Again, this is all about celebrating you, and let's start off here with Jamar Chase. And I love the Roadrunner gift. I'm going to just make an assumption. You're saying you got him right because he's fast and athletic, and you were correct. You were so smart to shut out all the preseason BS. Oh, he's dropping passes in fake games. He's not getting open in training camp practices. Who cares? Jamar Chase is a good player, a star athlete, as you point out here. And him and Joe Burrow have lost absolutely 0% of that electric connection that they had at LSU. Good job. Shout out to you for clearing out the noise, not paying attention to any of that, and moving right forward with your player evaluation. That is what is important. Next one up, we had Adam Thielen, and I love the regression, schmigression little thing here. You know I love myself a good rhyme. Well, you know, smart on you, because a lot of people focused in, they hyper-focused, they fixated on that touchdown regression that was coming for Adam Thielen, and they pushed him down draft boards to the point that he was extremely underrated. You know, just because Justin Jefferson is a stone-cold baller doesn't mean that Adam Thielen can't still be one of the best receivers in the NFL too. And you know, of course, he's not going to score touchdowns at the clip that he did last year. He's not going to score touchdowns at the clip he has through the first couple of games this year. But that doesn't matter because he can still be a great fantasy pick regardless. Shout out to you for not focusing on one little data point and underrating an extremely good and talented receiver. That is why you're a member of the Survival Kit community. Next one up here, we've got Mike Williams, as you say, the real can't guard Mike. You know, that's a little bit of too much of a shot at Michael Thomas for my liking, but I'm going to allow it here. Mike Williams has been straight up, actually, you can't guard this version of Mike. You can't guard Mike Williams. He's been one of the best receivers in the NFL and probably the best value in fantasy football. And I know we're celebrating you people out there, but that doesn't mean I can't take shots at some of the other sheep that aren't in our Survival Kit community. People were straight up stupid. People were straight up dumb to let Mike Williams fall down fantasy drafts like they did. People get all in their feelings. You know, Mike Williams has been hurt before. Mike Williams was a top 10 pick that hasn't lived up to his draft billing. Give me a break. Who cares? Mike Williams, people thought he couldn't be a full field receiver. I guess they don't watch the games. I guess they don't look past certain data points like average depth of target. Give me a break. Mike Williams has always been a good player. Now that he's healthy and in an offense that really knows how to use him, he's crushing it, and you're crushing it for being smart enough to draft him.
All right, Tank, it's time for some Make Your Pick flex questions from fantasy managers. And this first one comes from Patrick T. Owen. He needs 2 wide receivers and a running back out of Darrell Henderson coming off of those sore ribs. James Conner at the Rams. Ooh, the Rams have only given up 1 rushing touchdown to a running back so far this season. Amari Cooper, Emmanuel Sanders, or Sammy Watkins. I'm going to give my answer first. I'm going to go Henderson and Cooper. I know he hasn't been that involved and that the Cowboys have gone a little bit run heavy, but I don't think they can do that against Carolina this week as much as they have over the past few weeks. And Emmanuel Sanders. Do you think I'm chasing those touchdowns like you said earlier against Sanders, Tank?
No, I like it. I mean, I like the matchup against Houston. I think that Manny Sanders is a great player there. I think Amari Cooper is a game or so removed from those bruised ribs, so he should be heavily involved in this one. And definitely, I'll go with Darrell Henderson over James Conner just because I feel like the more likely running back to get in the end zone for the Cardinals will be Kyler.
Let's go to another one really quickly. It is from Charlie. He's in a half-point PPR league. He needs to start 2 of these 4. Corey Davis, Emmanuel Sanders again, Michael Pittman, or the Cardinals wide receiver 4, Rondell Moore. I'll let you go first this time.
I think for me, Corey Davis, I like that matchup against the Titans, revenge game narrative. I think he'll get peppered with targets. And that being said, I'll go with Michael Pittman. I mean, I feel like we're a little leery of him after that slow start in week 1, but I mean, he was heavily targeted last week. The one thing you have to worry about is Zach Pascal getting those red zone targets, but other than that, he's going to be that #1 wide receiver for the Colts, so I like Pittman.
I agree with you. It was between Pittman and Sanders, and Pittman is that dude. Not that Sanders isn't, but in this situation, I like him a little bit more. All right, how about another face-off? Andy, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, fantasy face-off time. Round 2. It's me. It's Harmon. It's Clash of Fantasy Titans. Let's start with a couple of quarterbacks. Let's start with a couple of quarterbacks here. I'm going Kirk Cousins this week, but Matt, you were leaning Ryan Tannehill despite the damage to the receiving corps.
Yeah, probably would side with you on this one, but I will give some endorsement to Tannehill here. Even though his 2 top receivers are out, he was actually QB8 on the week last week when Julio Jones basically did nothing. A.J. Brown was out of the game like right away. So there is still some high-scoring potential here for this Titans offense overall, mostly on the fact that he had 5 carries for 56 yards. The rushing threat does make Tannehill a good bet every single week. So, yeah, Cousins might be a better option in a high-scoring game, but I wouldn't freak out if you have to start Ryan Tannehill overall.
Yeah, it's probably a good way to put it. First of all, I've been very consistent on the matter of Kirk Cousins being elite. I've always said it. He's been terrific so far this season. He's got 8 touchdown passes, no picks. He's averaging 300 passing yards per week. He's been great. I was watching the Fantasy Football Survival Kit. I saw you talking up Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. I mean, we obviously like his weapons. So I'm going to lean Cousins here. He's been fantastic so far this season. Tannehill, obviously, without A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. That hurts. He's going to be throwing to Frank Wycheck and Drew Bennett. I don't even know who he's throwing to. It's going to be rough, so give me Cousins. Let's look at a couple of wide receivers. And, man, this to me is actually really close. It's Cole Beasley for me. It is Jacoby Myers for you. These guys have been targeted basically the same number of times so far this season. It's like 29 versus 30. I'm just taking the guy who's tied to Josh Allen, who looked brilliant last week. He gets a great matchup against Houston. We know the volume is going to be there. I think the volume is going to be there for Jacoby Myers, though, as well. Again, the targets are basically even on the season, and sneaky interesting game for Mac Jones this week. So give me the case for Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. The targets have been there for Jacoby Myers. 29, 124 routes on the season. Both of those lead the Patriots. I think this guy's a good player. And also with James White out, he might actually get some more targets in that short area passing game since they don't have another receiving back to go there. And, I mean, look, you said it earlier. They got to do the PR thing in Tampa Bay with like, yeah, we signed Richard Sherman. We picked up that defense right away. It's not just because we desperately need someone to play cornerback here. Jacoby Myers is on an absurd touchdown drought in terms of the amount of catches he has to not scoring yet in his career. This is the day. This is the day Jacoby Myers gets his first career touchdown. Sunday night, start him in all your leagues.
I actually like that bold call. It is time for our final break here on Fantasy Football Live. When we return, we're going to take more of your questions. Now, friends, are you tired of finishing in the middle of the pack in your fantasy leagues? Start winning with Yahoo Fantasy Plus. Get the edge you need to dominate your league. Get exclusive tools like the Trade Hub, the Research Assistant, expert rankings, and more. Sign up for a 7-day free trial today. That is yahoofantasyfootball.com/plus.
B, I want the real B.
I feel like I'm a starter. Everybody feel like I'm a starter.
If you don't know me, feel free to judge.
People always ask, will Kevin Love go back to Portland?
If I was wearing a Portland jersey, I mean, that's special. That's playing at home.
Did you talk to LeBron?
We never really talked about those battles. We moved forward from that.
There's some lines that even ambassadors shouldn't cross.
And then there's the load management.
How you feel about that, Dr. J?
I'm Hannah Kaiser, and this is The Bandwagon. The best way to watch baseball is with an unnecessarily masochistic level of emotional investment. Check out these dance moves. Ohtani unleashed. Aliens, fan. I don't know if they're watching. Huge fan. It was a socially distanced first pitch. He looks like a female superhero. This week on Humble Proposal, Jason Benetti, Jeff Passan, Shane Bieber. Every morning I wake up and I look at the standings and I'm like, who's out of the running? Nobody. Only the Pirates.
When I'm decorating a space, I'm constantly shopping, even on Yahoo Mail.
Oh, it's so perfect.
Finding the right piece really brings it all together.
Watch free live football. The NFL is on your phone all season long. Watch the NFL live on the Yahoo Sports mobile app.
We are just moments away from kickoff, so let's get to as many social media questions as we can, and let's start with this first one from Andrew Dallas. Full PPR, Kareem Hunt or Miles Sanders? Tank, why don't you take this one?
I like Sanders' matchup, but I like Hunt's production better. Hunt.
Okay. All right, well, let's get to the second one. That was quick. Thank you. This one's from Thomas. Robert Woods or Chuba Hubbard in my pool? This is not something I had on my 2021 bingo card. Andy, which of these two players are you flexing?
Yeah, I'm not terrified of Robert Woods, by the way. Like, I think Robert Woods is a fine start, still a fine player. He's been a 90-catch receiver multiple seasons, but I would play Chuba Hubbard here. Going to get a ton of volume. Looks good, not great, not exactly like Christian McCaffrey a week ago, but the volume is just unquestionably going to be there.
Oh, baby. This next one is for Minty. Minty, oh, I can't wait to hear this. What is your impression about the New York Giants this week?
No one's gonna like this, but I kind of like the ugly road dog coming off a loss, playing in the Superdome. Yeah, New Orleans' first home game, technically. It's gonna be difficult, and New York's offense is going to struggle, but I think this is where their defense really steps it up here. I think this is the perfect spot for a big underdog like New York.
Ooh, that is, Minty's been spicy all episode. I dig it, week 4. All right, Matt, this next one is for you. Daniel Rainha, George Kittle, who's battling that calf issue, or Dawson Knox, who's a favorite sleeper at the position this week at tight end?
Yeah, I think Dawson Knox does kind of deserve to be right on the fringes of an every week starter. You know, obviously it's a good matchup against the Texans. Their defense is not very good, but still I'm going to go with Kittle in this spot. Just, you know, he hasn't scored a touchdown yet. 11 players have scored a touchdown for the stupid 49ers, and George Kittle has not been one of them. He's hashtag due here at some point. Maybe not this week because he's not all the way healthy, but I don't think I have the stomach to bench George Kittle for Dawson Knox quite yet.
All right, I think we have time for one more. Rhymes with Tater in a full point, I'm assuming PPR league, needs one for a flex. Zach Moss, Leonard Fournette, remember no Gio Bernard this week, or Devonta Smith. Andy, I have a feeling, even though I haven't been here since '94, that I know since we've worked together for a while which way you're going to go here. But why don't you tell the people?
I am going Devonta Smith. He's going to see a ton of targets in this one. It's come up a couple times on the show so far. He's just going to be a target magnet, especially in this game against the Chiefs. High-scoring affair.
High-scoring affair, and that is going to do it for this edition of Fantasy Football Live. Thanks for kicking off your Sunday with us. Remember, you can catch us all week long on our podcast, the Yahoo Fantasy Football Forecast, our daily betting show, Mad Bets, here on Yahoo Sports, and of course, back here every single Sunday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern and 8:30 a.m. Pacific. Good luck to all your fantasy teams in week 4, and we'll see you next week.